Hi guys, and welcome to the next video. Today we're actually going to be looking at my recent delivery. Arrived fresh this morning, and this is from eBay. It's a range of GT3 1/64 scale cars. Now most of you know GT3 is a big part of my collection. So I've got a huge cabinet at the moment. I've got nearly every 1/64 scale GT3 car that's been released. There are some I'm missing. Most notably the Hello Kitty Tarmac Works AMG GT3, and also at the moment I'm also trying to hunt down the 2015 Tarmac Works Nürburgring 24 hours Audi R8. They are two cars that I am distinctly missing. But anyway, moving on from that, they're old releases. These are actually some really recent, brand new releases. We've got Pop Race, MiniGT, Sparky, and Para64 to look at. So to start things off, we're going to have a look at the MiniGT Bentley. So this casting is one that we're all very familiar with. This is their latest one, and this is from the Kyle Army 9 Hours. This was the last time that the M Sport team ran the Bentleys as part of the Intercontinental GT Challenge. We're unlikely to see them again, possibly maybe in private hands, but that's as far as it will go. So let's have a quick look at this casting then. So, usual MiniGT box and everything, nothing's really changed from any of the previous releases. So we'll just put these to one side. So I do like the MiniGT Bentley. I think it's a really great model and they've done a really good job on it. And this casting we've now seen, I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, I think it's about 8 of these now. 5 of them in proper sort of race liveries, might be 6 actually. We've also got a blue car that's coming later in the year. I've not yet seen it actually released. I've got that on pre-order. But this car I wanted to get, although it's not very successful, I think this car actually caught fire, potentially in the race or practice. I can't remember off the top of my head, but this car didn't finish. There was a fire, and basically the M Sport's final run with the Bentley was a bit of a disappointment. But what they did do is they came up with this really cool livery with the South African flag, obviously celebrating the Kyle Army 9 Hours, which is a really fantastic venue that I'm pleased to see is beginning to get some more high profile races. I do hope they get some bigger fields. Obviously COVID's affected the sort of number of entries over there in South Africa due to their rules and things like that with COVID and just general risk of travelling. So hoping for bigger grids, but either way, this is a really cool model. MiniGT do a great job on these Bentleys. You get the carbon fibre in the windows there. Also down on the decking, it's actually done really, really nicely. I'm calling it decking, it's not even decking, but the carbon fibre bodywork on the sides there. The diffuser's nicely depicted out. Tail lights look great. In fact, there's carbon fibre as well on that rear panel there. It's a really nicely done model. Usual rubber mirrors, which are useful. Headlights all there in place. M Sport emblazoned across the front there. So yeah, a really, really nice model. So really happy to have that. Some really good drivers there as well. Sule, Pepper, and Gunon. Pepper and Gunon. So Pepper's now racing Lamborghinis in America. Sule, I think, is taking a bit of a hiatus from racing. I've not really seen his name coming up in many places. And Gunon is currently racing in British GT for AMG, and also he is competing in the GT World Challenge Europe races as well. He was at Brands Hatch, for those of you that haven't seen that, worth watching. Really good races. So anyway, that's the new MiniGT Kyle Army Bentley. Next up, we're going to have a look at the Pop Race Audi R8 LMS SF Express 2021. Pop Race seem to be taking a very similar approach with their packaging to MiniGT. As we can see here, you get this sort of clamshell that goes inside the cardboard box. It's a nicely detailed box, you know, it goes back to what the car sort of delivery is, SF Express being courier, so it kind of looks like a parcel. I'm liking the red metallic lines over it. I don't mind these boxes, they save space, but I do like the display cases where I can actually display the model on a shelf. So if we open this up, the Pop Race Audi R8 of this sort of Evo, so this is a 2018-2019 Evo, not the first generation of Audi R8s of this type. Theirs is their own casting. I don't think they use Tarmac Works or Para64s. I think it is a separate casting. I have done some comparisons and there are differences. This has got a really nice weight to it, which I've not really noticed before in the previous ones. I think it may be because that's a metal base, if I'm not mistaken. This is a really nice casting, actually. And actually, this livery looks really, really cool. I don't really know much about this race. It's I think it's called the GT Super Sprint Challenge. I think it's mainly in Asia. I've not seen it appear anywhere else. But I basically got this car because I like the livery. I think it looks really cool. A lot better than the previous SF Express cars. Although the Macau car was quite nice. Don't know much about the drivers or team, I'm afraid. Although, as you can see, this car does appear to be a bit wonky. So that's a bit of a minus to me. But it's a nicely done model. I like the colours. You get decent detail on these Pop Race Audi R8s. Not quite up to Tarmac Works standard, but knocking on the door of Para64. About the same price as Para64 if you catch them early enough. They can get a bit more expensive and harder to find later on because they don't seem to make it over to Europe. So I have to buy these from a Chinese seller, but I'm really happy to have this one. So we'll put that over there with the Bentley. Next up, we're going to have a look at a Sparky. And we've got the Sparky McLaren 720S Absa Motorsport from the Blancpain GT World Challenge Asia. So as you can see, sellers are learning with these McLarens to tape them down. Some of the first cars that was sent out, they were breaking off their bases and all sorts. And it was actually the models were breaking off their actual base as opposed to the model car breaking up from the base. So the body shell, everything like that would come off, leaving the sort of the chassis, if you like, still screwed to the base. It was a bit weird. I did see others where the actual whole car had come off, but obviously they've taken a precaution of taping this all down. So we'll see if it falls apart when I get it out. Good news, the car is all together and looks fine. It's the standard Sparky base with this little sort of screw tab thing. I do quite like it, although I've got some that are quite loose and I just wouldn't trust when sending them to other people. So really happy to have this car, great looking livery. One thing I will say with Sparky is when they do these foil effects, be careful, these are delicate. My Avisu Racing Porsche has patches where it's actually come off, so not very good at all. Hopefully this one is a bit better. But yeah, really cool. McLaren 720S GT3, so this is the third McLaren that we've seen in GT3 spec. I think it's a great looking car. It doesn't seem to have the success. McLaren never have really been that strong in the GT3 championships. I mean, they've had a few titles and won a few races, but then they don't have the dominance of Audi, Mercedes, and Porsche. Porsche. I don't know why I'm saying Porsche. But yeah, this is a cool model to get. I'm hoping Sparky do a lot more of these McLarens because there's some really great liveries on these cars. They don't have the success, like I said, but they've definitely, sort of when it comes to liveries, there's some fantastic ones out there. The Bathurst cars are the ones that I most want to see. Obviously, they've had success at Bathurst with this model, so it makes sense for Sparky to release it, although I know that they've had problems releasing those McLarens in the bigger scales. We haven't really seen much of this model on this channel before. It's really, really nicely done. It's difficult to see, but actually in there is a textured grille, and it is in a silver finish as opposed to just being a black hole like it was on the AMGs. It is a bit weird and funky what's going on around this area. I'm struggling to see. Yeah, it's just, I don't really know what's going on here. It's almost like there should be a piece in there, but there shouldn't be. It's really weird. I can't really explain it without. It's like this is a plastic see-through piece, but it's not. I know it's not. I think it's just the paint that's tricking my eye. And then it just feels like there's a hole. I'm really struggling with this one. Let me know what you think if you received this one, but there's just something that looks a bit weird around here. Not noticeable when you display it. Wheels are nicely done. You don't get brake discs on a Sparky. It's just silver paint as well on the mirrors. A lot of the other brands put reflective plates in there. It's a nicely done model, painted front and tail lights, not going to complain. Sparky, I've paid about 12 quid for this car, although MiniGT, similar value, I do think they're better. So I would always say MiniGT over a Sparky where you can, but it's a cool car to get and I'm really pleased to have it in the collection. Now the cars that I'm most excited about is Para64's brand new casting, the AMG GT3 Evo. In front of us we've got two examples. We've got the Zaxbyed ADAC GT Masters car, and we've got the Mad Panda Motorsport car from the Spa24 Hours. Interestingly, this one's got very much the similar sort of style of design that you get on most Para64s, quite a plain case. This one, we've got a lot more going on. They've kind of made the box sort of a bit like Time Out Works would do, match up to the car. So let's have a little bit of a look at these a bit more close up. So here we are, Para64 AMG GT3 Evos. Really cool cars, and the AMG GT3 Evo changes from the normal AMG GT3. You can see the bigger, more aggressive front end, which has become very familiar, I'm sure, with many GT3 drivers in their rear view mirror. I think the car looks really aggressive. I really do like the two castings that have come out first from Para64. Mad Panda, I think, is a really good shout. It's a really cool looking car. Mad Panda Motorsport had a really great debut into GT World Challenge Europe as a Pro-Am team. They had a lot of success. And they've been slowly sort of building up to have a better season every year. I do think, though, that they've potentially dropped out this year, but I will double check that. I may be completely wrong, so I do apologise, any Mad Panda Motorsport fans. The Cup team come from Spain as well, which is quite a different thing. When you look at most teams on the grid, they're either German, Belgium, British. Yeah, you don't really see many teams from Spain, so that's cool to see as well. It's really cool, well done casting. It's quite difficult to see it in this black, so what I'm going to do is have a look at the Zaxbyed car. So it'll be easier for you guys to see some of the detail. So Zaxbyed, really well-known team across the world, competed in many championships, DTM, the Nürburgring 24 Hours. They even ventured into Formula 1 once upon a time. They ran at cars at Le Mans with the Porsche 911 GT1s, things like that. But this is their car from the, I think it was 2021 season of the ADAC GT Masters. This car looks great in the very sort of traditional colours of blue Mobile 1 livery, and the yellow flashes are because there was another car that ran with a red or sort of orangey colour, but they've depicted this car, the number 13. I can't tell you off the top of my head who drove this car, so I do apologise. This is a really nicely done casting though. So if we have a look at some of the detail that we've got on here, this is Para64's first AMG GT3. We can't really compare it to the old model, but I may do a video just to sort of see what the quality is like as opposed to whether it's accurate to the real car. My front wheels feel a bit stuck in place, but they do feel like they're not really going to move side by side, sideways very much. There's not much play in them. A bit more in the rear. The wing supports are nicely cast, not too thick, not too thin. Got nicely lensed tail lights, lensed headlights. Mirrors are solid, so they would break if you applied any pressure, but they do have reflective material stuck to them. Interior wise, the roll bar's painted silver. You've got your stickers and your position identifiers there. I can't see a huge amount of detail in the form of any dials and things, but I wouldn't expect that for Para64. They're at different price points, say Time Out Works, things like that. There doesn't appear to be brake discs on these cars. The exhaust is just silver paint. It isn't a detailed sort of thick pipe that's sort of got any depth to it, so I would say that's a bit of a negative to Para64. That's one thing I would say, that perhaps they could just put a bit of indentation to give it a bit more depth. And also this front area here is just a black piece of plastic. There's no sort of depth to that or material on there, which is a bit disappointing when you look at what some of the other brands do. Front's nicely done. Again, it's just depicted out. with a black backing. Again, you might expect there to be texture there, but I don't know. I'll let you guys decide whether you think it's acceptable or not. The side intake's nicely coloured in, and there's some good depth there. And on these rear ones as well, which sometimes get missed by some of the other brands. Overall, it's a really good casting. It's great value. I will pick up more, although we do know Tarmac Works and potentially Sparky are going to be coming out with their own GT3 Evos. Good Smile, which I assume will be Sparky, will most likely do their team's cars. It's a good casting. It's a bit like their Audi. It's not as good as a Tarmac Works, but I wouldn't expect it to for that value. It's maybe not as good as a MiniGT. I'd probably say MiniGT are probably the best value brand out there, but I'd say it's a little bit better than a Sparky model, so I'm not going to complain too much. But either way, that's my roundup of my recent delivery. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it shows you some of the new releases to those that also collect GT3. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hope to catch you on the next video. Thank you very much.